well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Welcome to another edition of Bearing Arms Cam and Company. My name is Cam Edwards. I remember to get batteries, kind of. Did one interview today before I realized, oh, geez, can't do that. But yes, but then I ran out. All is good. Coming up on the program, we're going to talk with a Massachusetts Second Amendment advocate who is imploring the lieutenant governor there in Massachusetts to speak up and take a stand in support of the right to keep and bear arms. You know, in Massachusetts, we have unfortunately seen Republican Governor Charlie Baker declare that gun stores are non-essential businesses. Attorney General Maura, Healey, Democrat, has declared that any gun store that reopens faces sanctions. Now, that has not stopped every gun store in the state of Massachusetts from complying with this order. There are some gun stores that have said, you know what, we're going to reopen anyway. And we'll be safe about it, but we are going to remain open for business. The Gun Runner gun shop is probably the most highly publicized example of that. Owner John Costa has been out there doing media interviews, talking to the local press, and saying, yes, we are staying open. To the best of my knowledge, he has received a cease and desist order from the local Middleborough, Massachusetts town government. But despite that cease and desist letter, he is still open for business. Other gun stores, unfortunately, have been forced to close. Ranges are closed as well. And we know, again, across the country right now, there are hundreds of thousands, in all likelihood, well over 1 million Americans who were not gun owners in January or February, but they are gun owners today. And one of the problems with these emergency orders that shut down gun stores and ranges is that those individuals have nowhere to train. We've seen this actually in Virginia. The Virginia Citizens Defense League, Gun Owners of America, and the Association of Virginia Shooting Ranges filed lawsuits challenging Governor Ralph Northam's executive order that declared indoor gun ranges to be places of amusement and shut them down. And earlier this week, a circuit court judge in Lynchburg, Virginia, ruled that the governor's executive order does overstep his authority and determined that Safeside Lynchburg can reopen for business. So that order applies only to that one range in Lynchburg for the moment. Governor Northam and the Attorney General Mark Karyn debating on whether or not they're going to appeal this decision. And frankly, I'm surprised that they haven't already done so. But then again, the judge made it pretty clear that under Virginia's statute, the governor is prohibited from interfering with the right to keep and bear arms during a state of an emergency, that under the Virginia Constitution, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And one of the reasons why we have the right to keep and bear arms is because a well-trained militia composed of the body of the people is the best guarantee of a free state. And so when you have a constitutional protection of the right to keep arms that specifically mentions training, that the body of the people, you and I, and every other legal gun owner in the state of Virginia, actually you and I and every other person who can legally own a farm in Virginia, have that right to keep, we've got the right to bear, we've got the right to train, makes it really, really tough to argue otherwise that, well, the state of emergency allows me to shut down all these indoor ranges. And, you know, if you really want to get training, you go to an outdoor range instead. That doesn't fly. Outdoor ranges are not nearly as accessible to a lot of Virginians, particularly in well-populated areas like Richmond and Northern Virginia, as indoor ranges are. And again, we've seen this challenge in Virginia. We are seeing similar challenges in the state of Massachusetts as well. Lawsuits have been filed over the gun store and gun range closures. But so far, we have not had a court ruling yet. LaKasha Robbins is with the Massachusetts Women Gun Owners Group, also a member of the board of directors of the Gun Owners Action League. And she joined me earlier today to talk about a new letter that she and the organization has sent to the Massachusetts Lieutenant Governor, again, urging her to step up and speak out in support of the right to keep and bear arms. Take a look and a listen. LaKasha, thank you for coming on the program. It's so good talking with you today.
Thank you for having me. Nice to talk to you, too.
And Massachusetts Women Gun Owners, this is a relatively new group, is it not?
Actually, we've been around since 2016. In August, we started the group. And originally, it was just started as a private group, and we only allow women in there. On Facebook. We do have a website, but mainly it was just to give women a place to communicate, network, and talk with other women, help each other get training and advice and education and that type of thing.
And how has it grown since 2016?
Well, we have over 900 members in the group.
Wow. Okay. That's how it's grown. Exponentially, It sounds like.
Yeah, so it's a pretty big group. I mean, not everyone in the group, participates and is specifically really active, but, and then we also try to do meetups with each other, and, a lot of girls, they don't know where to go for advice, or, they don't know what different carry options there are. So one of the first meetings that we had was a holster show and tell, and everyone brought their holsters in, and we got a company to send us a bunch of holsters, and we laid them out all out on the table, and everyone got to actually touch them, try them on, get an idea of all the different options there are out there, because it's harder for women to carry than it is for men.
Absolutely. And I know that you're also, you specifically have been doing some work with the DC Project.
Yep, and actually the Massachusetts Women Gun Owners is how I got involved with the DC Project, because, one of the things we did was we did a fashion show, the Concealed Carry Fashion Show. We put that on with the Gun Owners Action League.
Mm-hmm. So from the Concealed Carry Fashion Show and all of the work that you've done, you specifically, again, are also on the board of directors for the Gun Owners Action League. And the Massachusetts Women Gun Owners, you all have now sent this letter to Lieutenant Governor Karyn Polito talking about the growingly disenfranchised women of the Commonwealth. I just want to quote a little bit here. You say, "As a woman, I'm sending you this letter today to express my deep concern regarding the intentional shutdown of access to a critical civil right. The Second Amendment is the only civil right that guarantees our ability to protect ourselves against violence. This is especially important when the ability of public safety officials to respond in a timely fashion is stretched thin, given the current public health emergency." And so what are you asking the Lieutenant Governor to do here, LaKasha?
Well, I think, she needs to work with us and establish some guidelines here and on how we can proceed with, maintaining our Second Amendment rights and getting our license to carry. And I mean, we have gun shops that are closed. By Governor Baker has issued all the gun shops to be closed. People have bought guns and they can't even go in and pick them up. So, everything they're doing right now is restricting our rights. We need to open the ranges again. There's no reason why we can't go and maintain some guidelines and safe practices to continue, doing our safety training at the ranges. And they're not allowing us to even do virtual online training right now, which I just think is ridiculous.
I got to tell you, I mean, even for anti-gun activists and for anti-gun politicians, that one was kind of mind-boggling to me. Because as you say, all right, fine, you want to make the argument that, ranges are, as I live in Virginia, and our governor has declared indoor ranges to be places of amusement and has shut them down. And we've had a lawsuit going on that has allowed at least one range to open up. But the governor hasn't even gone as far as they've gone in Massachusetts in stopping online or virtual training. I think that's absolutely absurd. Particularly, we know, LaKasha, around the country, there are a lot of new gun owners. And I imagine that is probably the case in Massachusetts as well, even with the shutdown of gun stores. The state has acknowledged that, yes, people can still purchase firearms privately. They don't have to go to a gun store. So I'm guessing that there are some new gun owners. How important is it that they be able to get that training?
Well, it is very important. I mean, no one wants to just go pick up a gun and carry it around without any kind of training. Any responsible, moral, ethical gun owner wants to get training. So, and especially at times like this, you saw how many people went out and bought guns with all of this that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's, part of what the DC Project is education and educating people and making sure that people get the training and stuff that they need to operate the firearm safely and to feel safe themselves.
Well, I know that this letter was just sent out a couple days ago. I'm assuming that you've not heard back from the Lieutenant Governor's office yet?
No, I just put it out in the mail like 2 days ago. So,
Okay.
But
So this may be the first Lieutenant Governor's hearing about this. She might not have gotten the letter yet, but I hope that she does respond, and I hope that she does speak up because, as you say, this is a fundamental right, and it's absolutely tragic to me that you've had the governor and the attorney general there in Massachusetts so vocal in objecting to Americans living in the state of Massachusetts from acquiring a firearm to protect themselves during the state of emergency. I'm going to ask you, LaKasha, how did you get involved in this? How did you decide to go from gun owner to gun rights activist?
Well, first I just, I love shooting. I started getting into the competitive sport, and I loved it. And then with my background as being someone that has had physical abuse, rape, I just felt the importance of empowering women and giving them the opportunity to protect themselves and feel safe.
Well,
be safe.
I applaud you so much for standing up and for speaking out. And I have to ask you, as a survivor of abuse, one of the things that we've heard from gun control advocates over the past month or so is that, all of these guns in the hands of Americans, all of these new gun owners out there, this is a really dangerous thing because they say, we're closed up, we're staying at home. They're concerned about an increase in domestic violence. They say a gun in the home makes things more dangerous. Do you believe that clearly you don't believe that people should be deprived of their right to keep and bear arms during the state of emergency, but how would you respond to those people who say, listen, LaKasha, we're just trying to protect people that were in situations similar to yours. We're trying to protect women who may be stuck at home with an abusive partner, and that's why we want these gun stores closed.
Well, they might not have a place to go, and with everyone home and work shut down, they're stuck. They may be stuck home with their abusers. They may not have an option of how to escape from their situation. But I don't necessarily think that them having a gun and protecting themselves is going to be more of a danger to anyone. It's going to protect themselves.
Absolutely. Again, talking with LaKasha Robbins from Massachusetts Women Gun Owners. Do you have a website, LaKasha, where folks can find out more info about your organization?
It's womengunowners.org, and then also it's dcproject.info.
Fantastic. Well, listen, I really appreciate you coming on the show today. It has been a real pleasure talking with you, and hope we could do this again. All right, let's turn our attention to today's Armed Citizen story, our good deed of the day. You're going to like this one. I love this one. And our recidivist report as well. In fact, let's start there, shall we? New York Daily News reporting that this gentleman, Lance Darnell Gordon, charged with murder after a traffic stop led to a body found in the trunk of the car that he was driving. Lance Gordon was pulled over in North Carolina while driving the victim's car in Edgecombe County. This was on Friday afternoon. Authorities apparently did not look in the trunk, though, until the following day after they received a search warrant that allowed them to search her home and vehicle. And that is where they found 47-year-old Angela Lee there in the trunk of the car. Daily News says officers took the suspect into custody on an outstanding warrant, began trying to contact the woman after getting no response on Friday and Saturday. They became suspicious, and that's when they sought a search warrant. They found her remains in the trunk of the car and charged Lance Gordon with murder. According to local station WNCN, it's not immediately clear how or when the victim was killed, but authorities say that she was dead the entire time that she was in the trunk of the car. Gordon was added to the state sex offender registry back in 2017. He has been charged with violating his probation as well as larceny of a motor vehicle. He is also well known to authorities in North Carolina. He has previously served time, so he's been convicted or pled guilty to, among other charges, attempted first-degree rape, assault, robbery, obstruction of justice, and attempted burning of a public building. All again before the relatively tender age of 32. And Lance Gordon on the street behind the wheel when he should have been behind bars. He is today's recidivist report. Our armed citizen story from California. We also had a armed citizen story from California yesterday, but there you go. Even in California, yes, you do find folks who are willing and able to defend themselves. Lake Elsinore, California, where a suspected burglar was shot and injured by a homeowner. The Press Enterprise newspaper reports that the Riverside County Sheriff's Office said that deputies responded to a call of a burglary around 11:30 p.m. After getting reports of gunshots in the area. When they arrived, they found a man in the street with multiple gunshot wounds. That man identified as 39-year-old Rodney Ortiz of Banning, California. He was transported to a local hospital for his injuries. Sheriff's Department says that a homeowner in the area reported that Ortiz had forced his way inside the home. Homeowner, who was armed with a handgun, confronted Ortiz. The sheriff's office said the homeowner, fearing for his safety, fired at Ortiz, who took off running and collapsed in the street in front of the residence. Sheriff's officials say that the suspect, believed to be involved in at least 2 vehicle burglaries in the area before Monday night's attempted home burglary. Information not immediately available on whether Ortiz was armed during any of the suspected burglaries. But again, the homeowner, in fear for his life, acted in self-defense, not facing any charges at the moment. We will keep our eyes on the story, bringing you more details as they become available. And finally today, our good deed of the day from Iowa. This is from the Walk-On Standard, serving Walk-On and the surrounding Alamaki County community since 1868. You know, we have seen around the country these sort of drive-by parades. Some kids have a birthday or a woman turns 90 and the neighbors all get together and they have a little socially distant celebration. Well, there are a lot of nursing home and lawn care facilities that are being closed to visitors at the moment. And so the good folks of Walk-On, Iowa, decided they're going to hold a little parade for a local nursing home. A goat parade. Yeah, I dig it. I'm thinking about bringing my goats to a local nursing home now. According to the local paper there, the Good Samaritan Society of Walk-On paraded some unique visitors. I'm sorry, the Good Samaritan Society was with the recipient of the parade. How about that? The Good Samaritans, Nick and Lana Dahlstrom of rural New Albin, took some goats up to the long-term care facility. They said, we've been sharing photos with the residents through their website. I'd help the residents feel that they're not alone or forgotten during this time. She said it may be hard for them to understand or cope with why family isn't visiting, and we wanted to do something to brighten their day. Lana Dahlstrom's sister is a registered nurse at the Good Samaritan Society of Walk-On, and she helped introduce the idea of an outdoor goat parade to the facility's administrative staff. The activities coordinator reached out to the Dahlstrom family to make arrangements, and then on the day in question, they brought their goats. The Dahlstrom kids made signs describing their goats so that residents could read about them, learn their names, what breed of goat they are, what some of their habits might be. I love this story. I am a big fan of goats. I have my goats at my house. We have 3 girls who are getting ready to have baby goats any day now. We're going to be just flooding social media with baby goat pictures. And again, I'm really tempted to take my goats up to the local nursing home just to pay a visit. So the Dahlstrom family there in Iowa, in the right place at the right time with the right critters to brighten the days of those folks in that long-term care facility. We thank you for your very, very good deed. All right, that is going to do it for this edition of Bearing Arms Cam & Company. I want to thank you for being a part of the program. Tomorrow, we're going to talk with Scott Bach, Executive Director of the Association of New Jersey Rifle and Pistol Clubs, about a likely candidate for the next Second Amendment case to be taken up by the U.S. Supreme Court, something that could happen as early as Monday of next week. In the meantime, thank you for being a part of this edition of the program. Don't forget, you can subscribe to Town Hall Media on YouTube or the Bearing Arms Cam & Company podcast at Apple Podcasts. That way you never miss a program. Until we talk again, be safe, be well, be free, and we'll see you here soon with another edition of Bearing Arms Cam & Company.